Switch
Thank you
on
very
your
much.
microphone.
Yes, I did it. Thank you very much, Parvana. Good afternoon to all, dear Ambassador Jankauskas, Rector Halafov, distinguished judges, prosecutors, and lawyers. Ladies and gentlemen, dear participants. On behalf of the Council of Europe office in Baku, I'm pleased to welcome you today at the launch of the Azerbaijani adaptation of the Help Course on Violence Against Women and Domestic Violence, which is organized by our project on raising awareness of the Istanbul Convention and other gender equality standards in Azerbaijan. The project is implemented within the second phase of the Partnership for Good Governance program, co-funded by the European Union and the Council of Europe, and implemented by the Council of Europe. The project aims at increasing awareness of specific professional target groups, as well as the larger public, on international and European gender equality standards, and in particular, the Council of Europe's Convention on Preventing and Combating Violence Against Women and Domestic Violence, known as the Istanbul Convention. Although Azerbaijan has developed and adopted important pieces of legislation and very recently a national action plan on combating domestic violence, the sharp increase of cases of violence against women and domestic violence since the introduction of lockdowns due to the COVID-19 pandemic worldwide, including in Azerbaijan, highlighted the need for enhanced efforts to tackle and stop this form of serious violation of human rights, human safety, and dignity. This particular free online course on violence against women and domestic violence was developed jointly by the Human Dignity and Gender Equality Department, Violence Against Women Division, and HELP, the European Programme for Human Rights Education for Legal Professionals of the Council of Europe. It covers in an interactive way the key concepts, the international and European legal framework, and case law governing the prevention and protection of women and girls from violence. And all this with a special focus, as I already mentioned, on the Council of Europe's Istanbul Convention. Let me note here that next week, exactly in 1 week time, we will mark the 10th anniversary of the opening to signature of this treaty, which took place in Istanbul on 11th May 2011. Developed at the end of the first decade of the century, the Convention is a groundbreaking instrument belonging to the newest generation of international human rights treaties, based on four main pillars, known as the 4 Ps: the prevention of violence, protection of victims, prosecution of perpetrators, and policy coordination to end domestic violence and violence against women. I'm confident that for you as legal professionals, it will be of particular professional interest to get acquainted with this treaty, its mechanism and safeguards, its peculiarities and added values vis-à-vis other international instruments to which Azerbaijan is already a state party and which are already enacted in the Azerbaijani legislation, notably the UN Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination against Women. The course seeks to complement knowledge and skills of legal professionals and to provide them with practical tools for dealing with cases of violence against women and domestic violence, applying a human rights-based and victim-centered approach. Today is for the first time that this course, which is being translated into Azerbaijani and adapted to the national context, is launched in the country. This also means that today's group of participants could be the pioneer in adapting a new approach that can result in a very important tool for legal professionals in the country in terms of improving the quality of the judicial response in cases of acts of violence against women and supporting the access to justice for the victims of violence. Out of the 4 main pillars of the Council of Europe concept of combating violence against women and domestic violence, so out of the 4 Ps, in 2 Ps, judges, prosecutors, and lawyers have a crucial role to play. And this is in ensuring, first, that victims of violence against women and domestic violence are duly protected, and second, that perpetrators of these types of violence are prosecuted. In this context, we would like, first of all, to thank you all for your interest in this course and your willingness to deepen your knowledge on this very important yet complex topic. I would also like to extend our gratitude to Mr. Rector Elchin Halafov and the Academy of Justice for co-organizing this event with us and for the important role in contributing to the selection of participants. Before concluding, I warmly welcome my colleagues from the Gender Equality Division and the HELP Unit in the Strasbourg headquarters, as well as Louis Hooper and Farhad Najafov, our international and local consultants, who will introduce the topic, will provide practical guidance, and will be at your disposal to answer all questions you might raise. While counting on your active participation, I wish you a very fruitful and informative meeting. So thank you for your attention. And now I pass the floor to Ambassador Jankauskas, head of the EU delegation to Azerbaijan, our strategic partner and co-sponsor, to deliver his opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Zoltan. Parvana Khanim, thank you for having me here, distinguished rector, colleagues from the Council of Europe, both locally and from Strasbourg, and Azerbaijani lawyers or legal professionals. It's good to see you here. My colleague Zoltan already presented the project. I think nobody on this screen, in this online seminar, has any doubts how important this topic is, and if the opinion poll would be conducted among us, I think nobody would say that the domestic violence should be tolerated or is acceptable. However, unfortunately, that's not the case yet among the general population. And in several of the projects that were recently conducted in various regions of Azerbaijan, unfortunately, they show that there's still a number of especially women, who say that they have experienced domestic violence. Some even say that it is acceptable. We have actually recorded also the increase because of the recent pandemic. Because this is these recent lockdowns and diminished economic income, they required a lot of strength, a lot of resistance. They affected a lot of the families, individually, psychologically, economically. These are the hard times, and unfortunately, these hard times manifest in increase of that violence. And here, Azerbaijan is not unique. This is the tendency all across our countries. It's universal, but that's why it is so important that we all stay in touch, that we cooperate, that we exchange our best practices, how we address these issues. We help each other to help these victims with an eventual kind of goal to prevent and to diminish these numbers. So first of all, I would really urge all of us working in this area to encourage ways of getting reliable statistics, opinion polls, because asking people is extremely important, also to encourage people to speak up and then share the information, what to do if you experience that, what to do, where to go. Women need to know that they can go for help and they can receive help. And for you as legal professionals, it is therefore so important, even one successful case brought upon the perpetrator and successfully concluded with the punishment. Equally important is support that the victims receive, that they need to know that they can get professional legal assistance, that they can be protected. And in this case, indeed, even individual successful cases matter, even one. So I would very much encourage all of you to benefit from that online training. It's adapted to Azerbaijan. It's done. Thank you very much. Zoltan, I really liked your words as European Union and Council of Europe being strategic partners. I think this strategic partnership has really a strong meaning here in Azerbaijan. Indeed, we are. Because we care, because we want our societies to be more inclusive, better. The gender equality would not only be words, but they need to be really manifesting itself in everything that we do. We have had very intensive consultations here between the EU and Azerbaijan on justice, liberty, security, human rights. Just a week ago, we raised issue of Azerbaijan joining Istanbul Convention. This is the useful vehicle in the EU. All of its member states have joined, and we have received an answer that Azerbaijan continues to look and work on this topic. I very much hope that we will get to see results very soon. We have also, from the European Union side, just to testify that we are not merely the sponsors of the program, we are true believers, because we have done several projects so far. First of all, enhancing capacity of the monitoring groups. We have done a lot of the regional development projects around the country, helping families, especially women, to get their businesses started and getting better income. And we have started, as many of you know, I've seen a lot of enthusiasm, mediation, also mediators training in the family matters, and that mediation, I hope, would help also to save many of the hours in the courts and of the lawyers and prosecutors. And that's the better way of handling probably 90% of the disputes if not all, can be handled that way. Let me stop here. I really happy that this program is ongoing. It is important. You have my full support, this delegation's full support, EU full support and attention. We love to work with the Council of Europe colleagues. Thank you very much for the Justice Academy. And first of all, to dear participants, all of you, benefit, enjoy, contribute. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. We are also very happy to work with the European Union. İndi mən daha artıq qeyd olundu. Bizim bu layihənin əsas partnyorlarından biri Ədliyyə Akademiyasıdır və bugünkü tədbir həm də Ədliyyə Akademiyası ilə
One of the main partners of our project is the Academy of Justice, and we are closely cooperating with the Academy of Justice. Now I invite the rector of the Academy, Mr. Elchin Khalafov, to make introductory remarks. Many thanks, Parvana, for giving me the floor. Mr. Zoltan Hernias, Distinguished Ambassador Jankauskas, and dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you on behalf of the Academy of Justice. I think today we are participating in the kickoff of a very important project. I should say that health distance courses in this sphere, the Academy of Justice has a significant experience. I would like to mention that. We've seen the action plans of other action plans of the Council of Europe. We have participated in the number of the distant learning courses. Article 5 of the ECHR. In regard of the Article 5 of the ECHR, we have already developed the help distant course, and which is being taught for the judges, prosecutors, and lawyers. Despite Azerbaijan, among other, Azerbaijan joined the health distant courses a bit later than the other European countries. Within a short period of time, we have achieved a very important successful results. First of all, in the field of training for trainers, these distant courses, promotion, the awareness raising of the distant courses. The focal point was identified in the academy, in the bar association. The info point was established, and these persons carried out the promotion of the distant courses among judges, prosecutors, and lawyers. The selected topic, violence against women and domestic violence and their prevention, currently is very relevant topic, it's a very hot topic. You know that Azerbaijan has adopted is about to join the European Convention on Prevention of Violence Against Women, Domestic Violence. There are discussions underway. After we join the convention, a number of awareness-raising activities will be carried out in which Help distance learning course will assist us a lot. The role of women in Azerbaijani society has always been important in families or in the state administration, and this role is increasing, and significance of this role is increasing. Number of judges, number of prosecutors, number of lawyers, women lawyers, judges, and prosecutors are increasing. But despite, there are still cases of violence against women, despite government of Azerbaijan seriously fights against it. We know that there is a law on prevention of domestic violence of 2010. And indeed, during military operations, women are the part which is suffering mostly. As a result of the Armenian aggression, you know that women's rights were violated brutally, and under the pandemic, the research in Europe has shown that women are suffering parts as well. So this topic is very important. Prevention of violence against women is very topical and important for us. Academy of Justice, jointly with the Council of Europe, together with the Eastern Partnership countries, improvement of the access to justice in the 6 Eastern Partnership countries. I mean, this is a project we are implementing with the EU, despite pandemic has created certain obstacles for us in implementation of this project, but nevertheless, with our own sources, the Academy of Justice has developed a 6-module help course. This course was translated into Azerbaijani. So Academy of Justice provided this translation. Help course is a distant learning course, and under pandemic, it's necessary for us to have online courses. Indeed, with the development of the IT technologies and their application in education, it's very important, I should say, that ICT is largely used in justice system as well. I should say that the government of Azerbaijan carries out very important measures, for example, deepening the reforms in the field of judiciary, 3 April 2009. I mean, this is the presidential decree, where it has been indicated that in order to increase the transparency and accessibility of the justice system, e-courts system should be used in all courts of Azerbaijan. Currently in Azerbaijan, e-court, e-notary, mobile notary systems are being applied. Indeed, Minister of Justice expands the circle of the electronic services provided to the public. So far, we have some 30 such services, and application of the IT technology in the education is very important as well. I believe that we will have a successful project, and particularly regarding the application of the convention. And once again, I would like to express my thanks to the Council of Europe and for the support given to Azerbaijan in this sphere, and those who will make presentation during the event, I will extend my thanks to them also. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Elçin. So, We would like to extend our gratitude to the Ministry of Justice and Academy of Justice for their support in the enforcement of this project. So we are now starting with the presentations. So the first presentation will be brief information about the project. It will be done by Sandra Valoy Mateur, project manager in Strasbourg. Please. And Parveen, please share Sandra's presentation.
Thank you, Parvana. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for all the welcoming remarks and the encouraging words. It is indeed important to be able to create synergies and to act together to prevent and combat violence against women and domestic violence if we actually want to achieve long-lasting results. As Parvana said, I will present the project under which we're implementing today's activity, which is entitled Raising Awareness of the Istanbul Convention and Other Gender Equality Standards in Azerbaijan, which runs from July last year to December this year. As some of the information has already been mentioned, I will try to keep it very brief. So in the next slide, please. This project, as it has been said, it's implemented under the European Union and Council of Europe Partnership for Good Governance, which aims to improve overall the lives of citizens across Eastern Partnership countries. It is funded by the European Union and Council of Europe and implemented by the Gender Equality Division at the Council of Europe. Next slide, please. We work in cooperation with our partners in Azerbaijan, which you can see on the screen. And today's event is done in cooperation with the Academy of Justice. However, it is important to note that we also cooperate with a lot of other important stakeholders. In this case, for today's activity, we're cooperating as well with the Bar Association and the Prosecutor's Office. But not only in these activities, but in other, we try to incorporate as many stakeholders as possible. Next slide, please. The project aims to raise awareness of the Council of Europe Convention on Preventing and Combating Violence Against Women and Domestic Violence, which is known as the Istanbul Convention, but also to provide support to the Azerbaijani authorities to bring national legislation and policies in line with Council of Europe standards, but also to support them in their path towards signature and ratification of the Istanbul Convention. Next slide, please. The project aims to achieve the following. As you can see on the screen, we try to improve the understanding of the Istanbul Convention and gender equality standards in general, but also to increase the capacity of the relevant stakeholders to develop national legislation and policies in the field of violence against women, and to bring it in line with the standards, our main standard, as we said, the Istanbul Convention. And finally, we also aim to see the application of the knowledge and skills to implement the Istanbul Convention standards across like legal professionals, civil servants. In this particular case, because we're talking about legal professionals, it is important so that cases of violence against women and domestic violence are being dealt with in a more in line with our standards. On the next slide, please. In order to do so, the project works through three main levels of actions. One is legislative and policy framework analysis. The second one is capacity building at different levels and across sectors. And finally, we have awareness raising activities. On the next slide, we see the main four stream of activities that we're implementing under the project. Each of one has several sub-activities, so to say. I will not develop on them here, but it's just to show the three levels of work that we're doing. The first one is the gap analysis, which I think is very important and very interesting for you as well. It's a gap analysis that we're developing on the legal and policy frameworks with regard to violence against women and domestic violence in Azerbaijan, in line with the Istanbul Convention and other international standards. Once this gap analysis is finalized, it will be presented and followed by a roundtable discussion across relevant stakeholders in Azerbaijan. The number two, you see, we're currently developing a methodology on peer exchanges, which we call the twinning methodology, which aims to promote exchanges among peers as a learning tool. Following this methodology, we will have trainings with authorities that will take place later in autumn, but the idea that we have behind this tool is that it can be used across sectors in the future, including legal professionals and the judiciary. Thirdly, we're talking about the HELP course, which is being launched here today. We will also use this course, we'll implement this course with the Faculty of Law at the Baku State University as of June. And we would like to have other potential trainings to follow based on our possibilities. Lastly, we will launch a nationwide campaign on violence against women and domestic violence that will be done in light of International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. These will be done in cooperation with the Azerbaijani authorities and civil societies together. This last activity also includes for us a strong awareness raising component, because we already said that violence against women is a topic that we still need to see discussed a lot across different across different regions. So we have been developing different material and tools in Azerbaijani so that the population can access this information. On the next slide, you will see the publications, which are the previous slide, sorry. On publications, we have here we can see some of the ones that we have already translated. We have infographics on the already mentioned 4 pillars of the Istanbul Convention, which are prevention, protection, prosecution, and coordinated policies. We have other brochures on information, on general information of the Istanbul Convention, on the monitoring system. We have also a brochure so that to showcase the main standards and what the standards say in the field of gender equality and women's rights. And finally, we also have a series of publications on specific articles of the Istanbul Convention, which are a bit more technical and can be very useful for state authorities in understanding what the Istanbul Convention requires. On the next slide, we see some of the translation that we've done that might be more relevant for you today. These are translated of fact sheets that have been compiled by the thematic fact sheets on case law of the European Court of Human Rights and pending cases. So we have a thematic fact sheet on violence against women, another one on domestic violence, and another one on gender equality cases. These materials will be uploaded on the HELP course platform, and they will be made available for you shortly, so you can consult, read, discuss, and use them as required. This is all from me. I would like to thank you very much for your attention. On the next slide, you will have the information on our social media and pages and websites, so that you can follow our project activities and the material that's being developed. And now I will pass the floor to my colleague from HELP, Anna Medarska, who will tell you a bit more about the HELP program. Thank you very much once more.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. Is it okay?
Please switch off your second.
Yes. Does it help or not much?
It helps.
It helps. Very good.
It's good now. It's good now.
Apologies for this small hiccup. So, good afternoon again, dear ambassadors, dear Rector Khalafov, dear participants, dear speakers and colleagues. It's a pleasure for me to introduce you to the Council of Europe HELP program briefly. So we can start directly with the presentation. So you can go to the first slide. Thank you. So in the meantime, I'll start directly and I say what HELP is. HELP is an acronym of the overall title of the program, which is Human Rights Education for Legal Professionals. And this title goes very much also in line with what we're trying to do. You can move on because there's some animations in this slide, so you can, and also in the next one, so you can just click on next, yes, please, and on, yes, exactly. So the role of the HELP program is to help, actually to assist you and your colleagues, legal professionals from throughout Europe and beyond, to implement effectively the European human rights standards in their daily work. How do we do this? We do this by training. Mainly, if I want to summarize the work of the HELP program of the Council of Europe in one sentence, HELP is the Council of Europe program which develops and then implements online human rights related courses. You can move on and then go to the next slide. So you will see that in the HELP courses, we are covering not only the Council of Europe perspective, but also the EU perspective on the relevant topics. But first, let me briefly introduce you to the three main components of the Council of Europe Help Program, which is the Help Network, the Help Courses, the Help Online Platform and courses, and then the specific Help human rights training methodology. So let's start with the network. Next slide, please. The Help Network is composed of representatives, and you can click next so that we see the network in its full composition. The previous, please. Yes, thank you. So the Help Network is composed of representatives of justice academies, so national training institutions for judges and prosecutors, as well as bar association. And as Rector Khalafov kindly also indicated in his welcoming remark, the Academy, as well as the Bar Association of Azerbaijan, they're both members of the network. Unfortunately, this photo of the Help Annual Network Conference was taken in 2019, last year, for obvious reasons. You can imagine that we were not able to meet face-to-face, which didn't prevent us to meet and debrief with our network in a virtual format, which will have to happen this way, or at the best this year as well, or at the best in a hybrid format. But ongoing coordination with our network members are there all the time throughout the year, not only in the plenary meeting. And again, as stated before, the key links between us at the Help Secretariat and yourselves, so judges, prosecutors, and then lawyers, are the so-called Help focal points and Help info points. We can go on the next slide, showing you the second component of the Council of Europe Help Program. And this is the Help Online platform and its courses. The Help Online platform is basically a website. For those of you who know a little bit about learning, it's a Moodle-based website which accommodates all of the so-called Help Online courses on various human rights topics. So we can go on the next slide so that I share with you some information on how the number of users of the Help Online platform grew in the last several years. So you will see that there was already a steady growth. This is June every year, so you will see that there was already a steady growth throughout all of these years. But in between 2019 and this year now, there was a huge leap of the number of the users of the Help Online platform. Why? As it was already indicated, a lot of training providers face themselves with the impossibility of conducting, let's say, traditional or face-to-face training, and resorted to the use of the Help Online courses. And if we click next, we will see the current number of the users of the Help platform. Yes, thank you, which is beyond 87,000 users. So you will see that this growth in between June 2020 and now, this trend of growth continued, out of which more than 1,000 users come from Azerbaijan. And indeed, as already indicated, help actions in Azerbaijan were quite prominent throughout the years. Can we move on to the next? I just want to show you that in the number of, the number of users per country of the Help Online platform, this is from June last year, Azerbaijan was already among the top 15 countries by the number of the users. We can move on to the next one, please. You will see some overall numbers, but we can move on to the next because you will have access to the presentation in any event. In the next slide, you will see the overall catalog of the Help courses. So it's a long list of courses, so 37 which are indicated here, the so-called model courses. And I've singled out the one which we're launching today simply because they're put in alphabetical order. So on various human rights topics, all of these are available in English on the Help Online platform and then in other languages. And I will share a little bit more on which courses are available for Azerbaijan later on. So we can go on to the next slide, please. And I want to share with you how the Help courses can be taken. Or, if I can put it that way, what is the typical life of a Help course? There are two ways in which one can take a HELP course. The first one is the so-called self-learning way of taking the HELP courses. Namely, an individual simply needs to create an account on the HELP online platform, which takes literally 2 minutes, and then browse the homepage of the HELP online platform, click on the language codes below the picture of the course, of the HELP course of her or his own choice, and then just simply follow that course within their own free time, in a completely unlimited way. You have 10 minutes tomorrow, you have half an hour today, in a year, another half an hour. We never limit the access to these courses. However, if you take a complete self-learning course, at the end, you will be able to print out the so-called statement of accomplishment, which is a self-generated document, automatically generated document on the HELP online platform, attesting that you have completed one of the HELP online courses. You don't have to be on the platform at a particular time. You just really follow your own rhythm and available time, because we're aware that legal professionals throughout Europe are busy, and the HELP methodology is really adapted to the limited available time of legal professionals. However, and this is something that I really want to stress, there is one more systematic, organized, structured way of running a HELP course, and this is what we are doing today with you. What we're doing is launching the HELP tutored course implementation for your particular group of participants. And this tutored course, if we go on next, we will see that this tutored course implementation has a number of very important advantages. First, you will have your own virtual space on the HELP platform just for your group, where no one else can access. Why is this important? Because we would like to very strongly encourage you to exchange among yourselves, to enter into discussions, to use the online tools that will be made available to you, to really enhance this learning experience. Then these tutored courses, they're always run in cooperation with a partner institution, as is the present case as well, for which we're also very grateful for the cooperation. And then these courses, they are implemented in a specific period of time. So you will have a course schedule, you will follow this course in a period of time, and you will have at your disposal materials as to the national also legal perspective. You will see, you will be taken through this tutored course by a HELP certified tutor. So very happy to have on board also the HELP info point. Mr. Najavov, he will be later on speaking about the course implementation. And at the end of this tutored course implementation, successful participants are jointly certified by the partner institution and as the Council of Europe. So you will see it's, again, as I mentioned, more structured. There is a course schedule, and there will be a course certificate at the very end. So we can go next, because I would like to share very briefly a few words on the HELP training methodology. So you can go next, so you can see the 3 steps exactly. So the first step is the creation of the so-called model course in English. As it was mentioned before, this was done jointly by the colleagues from the Gender Equality Division and ourselves in the HELP Secretariat of the Council of Europe. This is developed in English. Then, as a second step, it is translated literally into the national language. So you will have really an identical copy of the model course into your language. And then it is supplemented with other additional materials, which will provide you the national legal perspective. As a third step, and this is what we're again here to do today, we're launching and we will be running, you will be taking the course on the HELP online platform in the so-called asynchronous learning. So you will be able to follow it again on your own pace, but within a time schedule, with a time frame. So if we move on further, you can see that we can go to next, and you can see that this first step has been done centrally, whereas the half of step 2 and 3 is done in close cooperation with the partner institution. So we can move on to the next slide, where I would just simply like to say, yes, please, next again. And then next, thank you. I would like to, yes, you can move on to show the whole picture again. What I would like to show you is how it worked with the course on violence against women and domestic violence. So if we go on next, you will see how it was developed as a model course, how it was, yes, thank you, how it was translated into different languages, and finally, how it was launched and implemented for specific, you can go on next, please, implemented for specific groups of participants, yes. And again, you can go to the third, thank you. When it comes to the HELP methodology, please click on next now, yes, thank you. When it comes to the HELP methodology, we really tend to have these kickoff events, these first events for launching a course in a face-to-face manner, but you understand that the COVID-19 pandemic prevented us from doing so. So we really very quickly adapted to launching the courses with these virtual events, which are very important to us. Although this is e-learning, we're very much looking forward to hearing also from you, from our participants, and so as to best be able to address your specific interests and priorities. So we can move to the next one, please. Thank you very much. If we go on the next slide, what you will be able to see is something that I wanted to share with you. Information, yes, please move on to show the photos of the courses. So there are already a number of courses available for Azerbaijan on the self-learning part of the HELP platform. So these cover different topics, so from the most introductory one on introduction to the European Convention on Human Rights and the European Court of Human Rights, which, by the way, we just launched last week in cooperation with the BAR, to more focused topics like alternatives to detention, right to liberty, security, property rights, and DCHR, namely Article 1, Protocol number 1 to the Convention, reasoning of judgments, and the refugee and migrant children. And then we can go on the next slide. I want to summarize what I was speaking about before. So what is HELP? We develop and run in close cooperation with a lot of cooperation projects on the Council of Europe. So we work quite transversally, as is the present case. Online human rights related courses. For whom? For justice professionals in the wider sense, and how through the specific HELP methodology for human rights training of legal professionals. So I'd like to thank you very much for your attention. On the next slide, you have our contact details. And I would like to wish you an excellent event today and an excellent course implementation. And we're there to support you on this path. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anna. Mən indi növbəti təqdimat üçün sözü Marta Bisiyev.
Now the floor is given to Marta Sierchev. She is from the Gender Equality Division of the Council of Europe, from Empowerment and Cooperation Projects. She's the head of the section. So she will talk about the brief overview of the course.
Hello, thank you, Parvana, for the introduction. Thank you, colleagues.
Salamlayıram hamınızı. Çox sağ olun Parvana xanım. Həmkarlarıma da təşəkkür edirəm.
Let me just get the interpretation off because I can't hear the interpretation.
Sorry, this is my fault.
Okay, thank you very much. It's a great pleasure for me to join you today for this group of participants of the HELP course on violence against women and domestic violence. I would like to present briefly the course itself, the HELP course on violence against women and domestic violence. And I will start directly from slide number 5 because Anna, before me, has covered the general process of how a HELP course is there. Thank you very much, of how the course was developed. So we jointly cooperated, the Gender Equality Division cooperated with the HELP unit in developing this course together. In 2017, we followed the process that Anna has very accurately put together through a group of experts at the international level, ourselves, and also with involvement of the European Court of Human Rights and other professionals. And I will elaborate a bit more later. Please, next slide. What I wanted to start with is by signaling to you what are the learning objectives of the HELP course. And there's two strands, if I may underline. The first one, normally the participants are very clear about. This is about knowledge, about learning about the jurisprudence, about the case law, about the research available, the data available internationally and nationally. But there's a second aspect of the HELP courses, which is skills and attitudes. The HELP course on violence against women is going to put you at the test about your perceptions, about your ideas, about what you think are the human rights of women when tackling with cases of violence against women. What is gender? What is a victim-centered approach in your everyday practice as a professional? This type of elements is also embedded in the design of the course, and I hope that by taking this course you will reflect on our own attitudes and beliefs on violence against women. Next slide, please. What is the final aim of the course? It's to have a better response to women when they are trying to access justice. It's improving the quality of our work, especially the legal professionals at national level, when have to adjudicate, investigate these type of cases. Next slide, please. Let me go very briefly over the structure of the course and a little bit about how to navigate the course. You will hear, of course, more with your national tutor about how to practically work the course. But for me, it's important just to mention that there are 7 modules, 7 substance modules, because the first one is about introducing the group that developed the course, etc. And they have been developed by 4 legal practitioners. We are very lucky to have Liz Hooper with us today. She was one of the experts that participated in the working group, but we had practitioners from different countries and different legal backgrounds so that we could cover the whole practice of access to justice for women victims of violence. A little bit, it will take you about 2-3 hours, depending on the consultation of all the resources that are included in the course, but roughly 3 hours per module are the average. You will have buttons with the menu, so you can jump to different parts of the course, and there will be instructions along the way, such as click this, read this, to guide you through additional resources that you may access through the course. You will get other external links to the UN or to the European Court of Human Rights, so you can broaden the scope of materials available. And at the end of each module, you will see that there's a summary of all the main points that were tackled during this particular module, and then a test for you. Next slide, please. These are the modules that you will find in the HELP course. Actually, the module on criminal justice response is divided into 2, so this makes a total of 7, even though in your screen you will only see 6. The first one is about understanding what is violence against women, the phenomenon of violence against women. The second module tackles the international and European legal framework. This is where you will look into detail about the Istanbul Convention in particular. The third one is about the barriers that women face when they're accessing justice. And this particular module will look a little bit more about our own perception and bias and stereotypes about victims. Then the module on criminal justice response, as I said, is divided into 2. The first one is about investigation and pre-trial, and the second one is the trial and adjudication of cases, the sentencing. The 5th module, 6 in reality, is the civil justice response, and the last one is about the alternative dispute resolution, meaning reconciliation or mediation, and the risks that these type of structures can pose to victims. Let us look a little bit more in detail about each of these modules. First of all, next slide, please. First of all, I'm sharing with you a little bit of snapshots on how the course look like. Yes, next. The course also has videos and other interactive elements. You will see here the former executive secretary to the Grevio, the expert group on ending violence against women and domestic violence of the Council of Europe. Next slide, please. There are other videos, as I mentioned, covering several aspects of the work on violence against women. We had the former Commissioner of Human Rights of the Council of Europe. We had the former president of the Grevio group. We have prosecutors, a judge from the European Court of Human Rights, a judge as well from the Italian Supreme Court. These professionals will give you an idea of different elements and aspects of the work on dealing with cases of violence against women. Next slide. This is how you will see presented the case law of the European Court of Human Rights in particular. This is a specific focus of the course on reviewing cases and seeing the facts and also the reasoning of the court. So for you to analyze them in a very brief manner with the main elements at stake. Next slide, please. Other elements that you will see relate to the costs, for example, of violence against women for society. You will see a representation on how the pillars of the Istanbul Convention are shaped, and each of these elements, what they contain and what that means in practice. Next slide, please. As I said, at the end, you will get a summary of the main points that this module address. Next slide, please. And a test for you to check if you have learned sufficiently during the module. Next slide, please. This is how one of the first modules, the one on international and European legal framework looks like. You will see different parts of the legal framework, including the European Union, the European Court of Human Rights case law, UN standards, etc. And of course, featuring prominently the Istanbul Convention. This typically is the module where legal professionals feel very comfortable with, because it's reviewing information and jurisprudence. But this is not all, of course, and the rest of the modules will put this into a perspective and practice. Next slide, please. Let's look again at the more substantive modules. The first one is understanding. Next one, please. Next slide. Thank you. Understanding violence against women and domestic violence. Here you will see the definitions as they are in international law, in the Istanbul Convention. It will help you get knowledge on the different forms of violence against women, not only domestic violence, but also other forms of violence. What are the dynamics of violence against women? What is the reasoning, so to say, of the perpetrator, what is behind this phenomenon, and reflect on our own perception and bias and our opinions on what is a victim of violence, what is a perpetrator. Next slide, please. As I said, the international and the European legal framework, this is where you will look into the details of the Istanbul Convention, but also other landmark decisions of the European Court of Human Rights, CEDAW, etc. Next slide. This is another one of the more practical modules where we would look at the barriers of different nature that the victims have when they are entering into the justice chain, entering into the justice system. It will help professionals to apply a victim-centered approach and a gender understanding of violence, and it will also look into how to do risk assessments and how to ensure that the safety of victims is put at the forefront of the judicial response. Next slide, please. This is as I said, there's two modules on criminal justice covering from investigation to sentencing. Here you will go through all the steps that a case would go through, looking into the practicalities on how to ensure that the victim is not re-victimized, that there is those barriers that we saw in a previous module, how they are addressed and how they are at play when the victim is trying to access justice. And it will detail the steps, as I said, from the prosecution part to the sentencing. Next slide, please. Civil justice is the following module. This will cover family law, civil law, damages, and other protective measures for victims. It will look as well at custody rights of the custody rights for children, and other aspects linked to civil law. Next slide, please. The final module of the course deals with the risks of alternative dispute resolution, and trying for legal professionals to understand that when victims come to these type of solutions of mediation, reconciliation, they do not do so in an equal footing with the perpetrator. So we have to be very careful as legal professionals of suggesting this type of solution for victims. This has to be very carefully addressed. And as a reminder, the Istanbul Convention prohibits to make these type of solutions mandatory for victims. So with this, I end up my presentation. At the end, you have my contact detail. Of course, if you want if you have a question or you have any concern, of course, you have the team, Parvana and Sandra, for you. And please enjoy the course. Let us question ourselves. Let us be a better legal professional. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marta. Nöbeti təqdimatımız kadınlara karşı zorakılık.
Next presentation is violence against women. I'm on the English channel. And domestic violence, European Council of Europe standards, and indeed special attention will be given to the Istanbul Convention as the most comprehensive instrument in this sphere. Our expert is Louisa Hooper from the UK, and Louisa Hooper is also the author, one of the authors of the course. Louise, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and welcome to the course, everybody. This presentation is designed to go through some of the key standards of the Istanbul Convention. Next slide, please. So the Istanbul Convention is the first European legally binding instrument, human rights and criminal law treaty that sets standards to preventing violence against women and domestic violence, protecting victims and punishing perpetrators. It's a groundbreaking treaty. It's known worldwide as the gold standard, and that's because it has a unique and comprehensive approach, which is designed not just to provide a law, but to give ways of implementing the law to make sure that it's effective. It provides a legally binding definition of violence against women. It establishes clear legal principles and standards in the area of preventing and combating violence against women and domestic violence, and holds states accountable for failing to prevent and combat all forms of violence against women, including domestic violence. So what it does is provide policymakers and professionals the legal tools to answer questions on what are the minimum standards and measures the state authorities need to implement to effectively respond to these forms of violence. In addition to that, it establishes the linchpin between achieving gender equality and the eradication of violence against women. So it recognises violence against women as a form of discrimination and starts from the premise that violence against women can't be eradicated without investing in greater equality between women and men. It has an overarching aim, which is to end impunity and ensure women's access to justice. And before we continue, I just want to say a very quick word about gender, because the word gender has become quite controversial in lots of different contexts. And whatever those controversies and whatever people think about the word gender, it has a very specific definition for the purposes of the Istanbul Convention, which is at Article 3C. And gender means the socially constructed roles, behaviours, activities and attributes that a given society considers appropriate for women and men. So where I use the word gender, I'm using it very much in the context of that definition for the purpose of the Istanbul Convention, which also defines gender-based violence as violence that is directed against a woman because she is a woman or that affects women disproportionately. And I thought it probably best to deal with those two concepts right at the outset, because I know that in some languages, the word gender can cause linguistic difficulties or context difficulties. So that's the context in which we use it in the convention. Next slide, please. I think already outlined, the Istanbul Convention follows the structure of prevention, protection, prosecution, and integrated policies, the four Ps, and it implies that effective policies have to be in place to have an adequate and holistic response to violence against women. Next slide, please. Broadly speaking, it's a 12-step programme to the eradication of violence. The first is to condemn discrimination against women, to invest in preventative measures, to help victims get support, to protect victims at risk. Next slide, please. To change the law, enhance law enforcement protection, empower victims in legal proceedings, and these three, change, enhance, and empower, are going to be particularly important for legal professionals dealing with these courses. Design comprehensive policies. Next slide, please. To recognise gender-based violence as a form of persecution for asylum seekers. To respond to the special needs of children as victims and witnesses, to collect data, monitor and research the impact of the implementation, and to support NGO and civil society multi-agency working. And when we get to the end of this presentation, I hope that you'll see how those 12 steps work in practice. Next slide, please. Grevio is the group of experts on action against violence against women and domestic violence. They're a group of men and women who are experts from the police, judiciary, law, academics, social workers, and the women's sector. And they are charged with monitoring the implementation of the convention. And when they monitor, they write country reports, and there are various thematic and other publications available on the Istanbul Convention Grevio website. Next slide, please. So that's the background. Who does the Istanbul Convention protect? Article 4.3 provides that the measures in the convention to protect the rights of victims shall be secured without discrimination on any ground. So the consequence of this is that the provisions apply in their entirety to all women, irrespective of their migrant or refugee status or any other status within the territory. In respect of violence against women or domestic violence committed within the state, no distinction can be made as between different types of women based on any forms of discrimination. Next slide. Thank you. Stereotyping is another fundamental tenet of the Istanbul Convention, in that it attempts to overcome stereotypes, and in particular to stop women and men being confined to traditional roles, so expanding their life opportunities and relationships with each other. It opposes maintaining patriarchal values and attitudes which are known to enable violence against women and girls to continue to the detriment of those groups, and is a strong tool in advocating for the protection of women and girls and seeking to end violence against them. And by this, what we mean is that if we try and eradicate stereotyping, we can tackle some of the reasons why men are violent towards women or commit sexual assaults and abuses towards women. And we can try and enable women to respond themselves to the situations that they're in. Next slide, please.
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt. I guess interpretation is not available in Azərbaycani. Azərbaycan dilində eşidir hamı təqdimatı, çünki mənə gəlmir tərcüməçilərin səsi.
Yok.
Hayır, eşidilmir.
Yok, tercüme dayandı nasıl?
Pərvin, tərcümə
Bəli.
indi eşidilirsiniz. Bayaqdan yox idi tərcümə, yəni. Aha, yəni indi eşidilir. Aha. Sorry, Louis, you can go
Please
ahead.
keep on going.
Okay, thank you. So the standards and core principles of the convention, starting with gender.
Yox, çox özür istəyirəm. Bir dəqiqə. Hər iki tərcüməçi eyni vaxtda tərcümə edir hal-hazırda. Mehriban xanım, siz tərcümə etməyin, artıq oldu, sağ olun.
Is it okay to
Please keep on going. Yes, please.
continue?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Gender equality.
No, please just go ahead.
Okay.
You can go ahead.
Gender equality. The convention frames the eradication of violence against women and domestic violence in the context of achieving in law and in fact equality, de jure and de facto equality. It recognizes that violence against women is both a cause and a consequence of unequal power relations between women and men, and requires greater equality between women and men to be overcome. Due diligence. The convention requires due diligence is a concept that I'm sure is familiar to many of you in terms of Article 3 of the European Convention of Human Rights or Article 2 of the European Convention of Human Rights. The convention requires states to diligently prevent, investigate, punish and provide reparation for acts of violence against women and domestic violence that are covered by the criminal provisions of the convention. And the failure to do so triggers state responsibility for an act that otherwise would be solely attributed to a non-state actor. So a failure to protect causes the state to become responsible in law. A coordinated and multi-agency approach, which implies that all relevant actors playing a role in preventing and combating violence against women and domestic violence need to coordinate and cooperate to effectively respond to the problem. And you'll see that at Articles 7 and 18. Good practice examples show that results are much better when law enforcement authorities, the judiciary, victim support services, child protection agencies, non-governmental organisations and other relevant partners join forces to develop a comprehensive and coordinated response. The Istanbul Convention also recognises the work and valuable input of non-governmental organisations in this field and asks states to cooperate with them effectively. And you'll see that at Article 9. And these integrated policies and practices are very much at the heart of the Convention. The Convention requires a victim-centred approach, putting the emphasis on the importance of treating victims with respect and sensitivity and putting their rights, needs and safety at the core of all interventions. There are some groups of women and girls who are at greater risk of violence and their needs should be taken into account. And to be able to empower and protect the human rights of women, a gendered understanding of violence against women and domestic violence should be at the base of all measures. These standards should be applied throughout all the investigative and judicial proceedings, so not just the police, but also the initial stages of court proceedings, whether you're a prosecutor or a defence lawyer or assisting victims in some other form. And children as victims and witnesses. So the Convention also recognises that children can be affected by violence against women and domestic violence, either as victims themselves or as witnesses. And several provisions of the Convention address both children as direct victims and children who witness violence between their family members. So you can see, for example, in Article 26, issues to do with child witnesses, and Article 31 for child custody, visitation and safety. Next slide, please. Domestic violence has a specific and wide definition. It includes psychological or economic violence as well as physical violence. Cohabitation is not required, so the parties don't need to live in the same house. It can be perpetrated by former partners or by other family members, and can include threats as well as actions. Next slide, please. So how does the Istanbul Convention aim to ensure access to justice for women? And as I've said, it's very comprehensive, and the intention is that the support procedures and structures that are in place will enable women to continue with make a complaint in the first place, to continue with the complaint, and to see that complaint through to eventual trial. And it starts with the availability of counselling and support services. It requires a robust criminal law structure that provides practical protection and leads to appropriate and adequate sanctions. It requires well-trained, specialised and gender-sensitive professionals in social services, health sector, law enforcement and judiciary. And it requires criminal investigations to be robust and sensitive, for proper factual assessments to be undertaken, proper risk assessments and appropriate measures taken in response, and victim-friendly, non-traumatizing criminal proceedings. Next slide, please. In terms of civil law, there is a section of the convention that deals with what I would call black letter law and requires specific measures in law. Firstly, it requires adequate civil remedies against both the perpetrator of violence, but also the state if it fails to protect the woman from the violence. It provides for a right to compensation if the protection mechanisms fail, from the perpetrator where possible, and if not possible to obtain compensation from the perpetrator, alternative compensation from the state where the damage caused to the individual is not covered by other sources such as insurance or state-funded health care, for example. And then in terms of forced marriage, this must be capable of annulment without unduly burdening the victim of the forced marriage. Next slide, please. Family law proceedings have provisions at Article 31 on custody and visitation decisions, which are designed not to jeopardize the safety of victims and their children, because we know that custody visits can be a particular flashpoint. It highlights the importance of ensuring that there is an information flow between the criminal court and the family court. So if proceedings are happening in a criminal court because somebody has been violent, it's important for the family court to be aware of this. Family judges must have the tools to understand the level of risk a perpetrator of domestic violence presents to his child and the child's mother. And you'll see that there are various risk assessment tools in the help module itself that can be used as examples. The substantive criminal law requirements, there are a set of forms of violence and abuse that states must criminalise which are set out. And these are psychological violence, which is very often misunderstood, physical violence, stalking, sexual violence and rape, which must be based on the lack of consent and not the use of force. Next slide, please. Forced marriage, female genital mutilation, forced abortion and sterilisation, and for sexual harassment, criminal or other legal sanction is required. So it doesn't necessarily have to be criminal sanction. It doesn't require the state to enact specific offences for each of these, but must ensure that they can be prosecuted. And I'd suggest looking at the explanatory report to the Istanbul Convention for further information about each of those requirements. Then on sentencing, next slide, please. Some of the offences have to be punished by dissuasive sanctions, which the idea of these is that there's a deterrent effect in sentencing so that other people will be dissuaded from committing these sorts of offences because they fear imprisonment. So sanctions can include deprivation of liberty, and for non-nationals, deprivation of liberty may be capable of expulsion measures. And states must adopt measures to supervise convicted perpetrators, so running perpetrator programs, and to withdraw parental rights from perpetrators of domestic violence if the best interest of the child is threatened by maintaining contact. There are a set of aggravating circumstances which must be taken into account when sentencing in cases of intimate partner, close relationship or family violence, repeat offences, if the offence is committed in the presence of a child, violence committed by multiple perpetrators, the use of a weapon, or if the offence results in severe physical or psychological harm. Next slide, please. Mediation. As Marta said, in the Istanbul Convention, mediation in a criminal context and in a family context is voluntary only. And the reason for this is that it takes into account the imbalance of power between the perpetrator and the victim, and the fact that control is very often used over a victim to obtain her submission to the abuse. And so in a criminal context, it's particularly important that mediation should only be voluntary and never in full replacement of criminal proceedings, because again, it's important that these forms of violence are seen as crimes and not a private or family matter, but actually a criminal matter. And the focus is on offering criminal justice for acts of violence and not on alternative dispute resolution. In family law, it's recognised that there are some circumstances where mediation is appropriate, but it's fundamental to ensure proper consent to mediation, which has to be full, free and informed. So if there is improper pressure being placed over a woman to agree to mediation, this is not appropriate. Next slide, please. In terms of criminal investigations and protection measures, there's where you instigate an investigation, that can be a flashpoint to increase the violence against a woman. And so there are a series of immediate measures that can and should be taken if the level of threat is sufficiently serious. The first of those is an emergency barring order, which is at Article 52 of the Convention. And the idea behind this is that the woman should not be required to leave the house with her children. The fundamental idea is that the woman shouldn't be required, but that the perpetrator or potential perpetrator should be required to leave. And these are supposed to be very quick and for a short period of time, so taken on an emergency basis. And you'll see within the course that there is some discussion over some of the opposition that there has been to emergency barring orders, which is, well, if it's the man's house, why should the woman be made to leave? And in that respect, you're balancing two different types of rights. One, not to be killed or suffer significant injury, versus the right to stay in the home. And you take the action that's designed to prevent the most serious consequence. There is a booklet on Articles 52 and 53, which is also very helpful, that you can find on the Grevio website. So once the emergency barring order is dealt with, you'll then have restraining and protection orders, and these are designed to be longer term depending on the needs of the individuals and generally take into account both sides of an account. To be effective, investigations and judicial proceedings have to be carried out without undue delay, and many of you will probably be aware that if investigations take too long or court proceedings take too long, women in particular get fed up of them and they withdraw their complaints or they don't want to continue. And this makes those investigations and the work that's been put in ineffective, and it reduces the availability of protection. There has to be an immediate response by law enforcement agencies to all forms of violence against women. So no immediate delay. And risk assessment and risk management is fundamental. And as I said before, there are various techniques and programs and tools that can be used to assess risk and ways to manage the risk. So you wouldn't want to have the same high level risk management in a case where there was less risk. So that these are designed to help law enforcement work out what they're supposed to be doing. In terms of prosecution and criminal proceedings, the convention is designed to enable ex officio prosecution of some of the articles of the convention, some of the offences, and these include physical violence, including domestic violence, sexual violence and rape, forced marriage, female genital mutilation, and forced sterilisation, forced abortion. And that's in recognition that these are really serious offences of violence, and that if the victim drops their complaint, it should be possible to continue with the prosecution. And that will depend on evidence being collected and preserved appropriately. Domestic violence counsellors or other victim support people should be available to assist victims during investigation and judicial proceedings, to help them understand what's happening and to ensure that the testimony that you're getting is that they're able to give that testimony. There should be limits on admitting evidence related to sexual history and conduct of the victim during criminal proceedings. That kind of evidence can be admitted in certain circumstances, but it has to be relevant and shouldn't be being admitted just as part of an attack on a woman who is a victim of violence or rape. Other protective and supportive measures must be implemented at all stages of the judicial proceedings, and you'll find these at Article 56, and they can include things like victim confidentiality, video screens, and protective measures such as those. Next slide, please. So some of the fundamental principles are protection of the victims, their relatives and witnesses. Once a prosecution is undergoing, they all need to be protected. That the victim has a right to be heard and to be provided with a competent interpreter if interpretation is required. That there's a right to be informed of the perpetrator's release. So if you have a successful prosecution and the perpetrator is sent to prison, the victim needs to be aware of the fact that that prison sentence has now ended and the perpetrator is released. The right to testify in the courtroom without the perpetrator being present, which could involve putting up screens or having video links, and the provision of free legal aid to victims. Next slide, please. And finally, the Convention has specific provision for migrant and asylum-seeking women. So thinking back to Article 4.3 and the non-discrimination provision, migrant and asylum-seeking women in the territory are entitled to the protection of all of the forms of protection in the Convention itself. But there are these three additional provisions. And the first one is Article 59, which provides for a residence permit and the possibility of granting independent residence status to migrant women victims of violence against women who depend on their abuser for their residence permit. So this is designed, for example, for women who come as the spouse of a national, who experience domestic violence, who have their immigration status held over them and are told, we will make you deported unless you do what we say. Or if you leave me for hitting you, I will have you deported. There are also measures for victims of forced marriage who've lost their residence status in the country where they usually reside. And the idea is that the state helps them to reobtain their residence status. Article 60 is gender-based asylum claims, and there are obligations to recognise both gender-based violence against women as a form of persecution under the meaning of the Geneva Refugee Convention, and a form of harm that requires specific protection measures. And states must adopt a gender-sensitive approach when establishing refugee status and international protection. And one of the best ways of doing this is through gender-related guidelines issued to asylum decision makers and migrant officials and border officials within the state. And then at Article 61, there is an overarching prohibition on non-refoulement and not removing women who are victims of gender-based violence if it's likely to expose them to inhuman and degrading treatment, torture, or punishment. So that's the whistle-stop tour of the main provisions of the Istanbul Convention, which you'll find in the HELP course. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Louise, for very detailed and comprehensive presentation. At the end, I will give the floor to the participants to check if they have any questions regarding the Istanbul Convention. İndi bizim vaxtla 15 dəqiqə fasilədir. Yəni 15 dəqiqədən sonra saat 5'e 15 dəqiqə qalmış.
15 minutes break now at 16:45. You can come back using the same link. We will have a presentation by the local expert. Also, you will have opportunity to introduce yourself and to express your expectations from the course. Thank you very much. We will have 15 minutes break and then we will come back. Thank you.
Bir dakika daha gözleyek ama geldiğinden emin olak ki devam edek. Bir dakika daha vaxt verek. Mehriban Hanım buradasınız siz.
Bəli, mən
Mehriban Hanım. Sadece indi başlayacak. Emin olmak istedim ki tercümeçiler. O bilmirsiniz neçə dəqiqə o cür. Bir dəqiqə oldu. Bir kesi tekrar salamlayıram. Düşünürüm ki artık herkes kayıttı.
I welcome everyone once again. I think everyone is back already. I think there is no need to particularly introduce our next speaker. Farhad Najafov, everyone knows him, all of you. Farhad Najafov is the person who knows health course best in Azerbaijan, I would say. Maybe one of them, or maybe the first one of such experts. We extend our thanks to him for his interest, for participating in this process. And Farhad Najafov participated in the adaptation of the course in Azerbaijan, and he joins also as a local tutor. Now, our next presentation is about relevant internal domestic legislation. I think all of you have sufficient information about this. Yet we wanted to have some brief presentation about this also. So with great pleasure, I give the floor to Farhad. Thank you, Parvana, for giving me the floor. I welcome all of you, dear colleagues, friends, many of you I know personally. Also, I would like to extend my gratitude to the Council of Europe and the EU for implementation of this project, also Academy of Justice of the Minister of Justice. Also, you know that, as Parvana mentioned, development of this content took some period of time, particularly its adaptation to Azerbaijani language. And Madam Anya Medreska, Madam Sandra, and Parvana Bayramova we have closely cooperated, as a result of which we have worked out this training course. And thanks God, we have a possibility to conduct this training, if to take into account that this is a sufficiently relevant topic. You have to know that in Azerbaijan, in regard of this topic, this theme, the first document of this type, you know that recently in 2020, in November 2020, President signed an action plan on fight against domestic violence for the years 2020-2023, where it has been directly indicated that provision of the legal protection in the field of domestic violence should be carried out, awareness raising should be carried out, judges and prosecutors and lawyers should be covered by trainings, and specialized experts should be trained as well. This has been identified as a priority. Maybe many of you don't know that between the United Nations and Azerbaijan, certain framework cooperation contract is being signed for certain periods between the government of Azerbaijan and the resident representative of the United Nations. In 2021, 1st March, this framework contract was signed that during 2021-2025, a number of activity will be carried out regarding certain themes. There are 4 priority directions. 4th direction is linked to the provision of the gender equality, carrying out events dedicated to the gender equality measures, different measures. Equal representation of women and men in public administration and others. As to Azerbaijani legislation, without taking much of your time, I want to share with you some nuances. For example, all of you, excluding prosecutors, lawyers and judges, I have added some 20 persons to the platform. In the course of the day, 6 staff from the prosecutor office, I will add 6 persons already. So you already have account in the platform. When you enter the platform, there is a final part of the platform about case law and the domestic legislation, national legislation. So you can ask a question, why national legislation should be considered? So I would recommend you strongly that before you start the course, please go through the pieces of legislation I have indicated in that, have been indicated in that part. For example, in 2006, we had a law adopted on gender equality. So definition given in that law and definition that we will learn within the framework of this training. Even small, but still there are differences between 2 notions. After you get acquainted with the Azerbaijani legislation, you will be in a better position to understand, comprehend the Istanbul Convention. So it's very important that before you start, you go through the national legislation. What observations show? For example, regarding provision of the gender equality, there's a law on gender equality. In that law, for example, equality between men and women, in which spheres women should be preferred in order to provide and not to consider gender imbalance or gender violence, gender-based violence. For example, men serve military service, conscription, but women don't. Between women and men, due to natural biological indicators, pension age is different for men and women. So these basic issues, so it would be good to have information regarding these basic issues. Also, some other issues. For example, in our daily life, what we observe, sometimes employers post different vacancies, job advertisement. For example, they require purely men or purely women for this particular job. But despite there is no necessary physical or other conditions which require men or women to work, but this is the violation of the legislation on equality, of gender equality. But many of us, majority of the population, including lawyers, do not have sufficient information about such minor issues, maybe minor issues. So in order to eliminate all this, in order to be better, well-equipped, it's very good to go through the national legislation. Also, as you know, Istanbul Convention, Azerbaijan has not joined yet Istanbul Convention. So we can ask a question, why we are focusing on this theme despite Azerbaijan has not joined this? So what if Azerbaijan is not a party to the convention? For us, for the lawyers, one of the main components of the convention is civil and criminal proceedings for handling the domestic violence cases. In the future, for judges, for prosecutors, for lawyers even, there are such nuances which there are instruments encompassed by the convention which do not exist in our legislation. These instruments will be brand new for you. So you have to make sure that in your practice, you sufficiently benefit from these instruments. I know this learning platform very well. All this information in this platform are not of declaration nature. They are purely technological, methodological information which can be used by the lawyers. All these instruments, tools, sorry, can be used by the lawyers. And within this training, I assure you that you will get information which will help you in your activities in the future. Specialized judges, prosecutors, lawyers will have an effect on the quality of the work they are doing. I don't know whether I'm exceeding the time allocated to me or not. For example, our administrative violations code, for example, regarding domestic violence in our country, domestic violence violations of criminal natures are not criminalized. In our criminal code, we don't have an article, but we have article 157, 158 of the administrative violations code, which classify domestic violence as violations that occur on the domestic ground. So it was later on was passed to the beating, for example. Domestic violence, expression domestic violence. Despite such terms are not used in the disposition of the article, in the criminal proceedings, usually victims of the domestic violence face exactly this type of crime. You know that we have a law on domestic violence, and Cabinet of Ministers identified a number of rules for the execution, implementation of this law. For example, the bank of information related to the domestic violence. You know that State Committee on Family, Women and Children's Affairs deals with this. Also rules on preventive measures, as well when there are no corpus delicti or criminal content in the complaint regarding domestic violence, which institution should be addressed with this complaints. This is not discretionary power of the executive powers, but still it is under their jurisdiction. So if you read all these rules, you will see that Istanbul Convention, in fact, also to a certain extent covers all these rules which exist in our legislation. So for you to know these rules will improve the quality of your work. Parvana, I think this is what I wanted to say. In fact, if you have any questions, or if I'm not violating the time limit, then I can continue. Thank you very much. Now it's time for the participants. They will introduce themselves and express their expectations from the course. Also, what I wanted to say, on behalf of the Bar Association, I should say that, you know, along with being tutor, I am also advisor of the chairman of the Bar Association. So while identifying the number of the participants, we tried to get some gender balance as well. So we have 5 lawyers, women lawyers, 5 men lawyers, as we were nominating the participants. So lawyers' attitude, those lawyers who want to be involved in gender-based violence cases. So we have nominated mostly them, we have only them. We have developed a course, there is a platform, and in the future, there is a legal aid center of the Bar Association, through which we will involve all other lawyers also in this course. Because there are many persons who want, some 30 lawyers were interested, they wanted to participate, but we selected only 10 of them, 5 women, 5 men. But you know that Bar Association is based on the ownership principle. We will involve those remaining 20 lawyers also in with the training course. Regarding the figures, I generally want to tell you that among the registered participants, we have 5 women judges, 5 men judges, 6 prosecutors are only men. I think number of women prosecutors is not so high in the country, so that's why we have a representation here like this. I think in order to facilitate the process, I will go through the sequence that I have in the list. So please, every time I give your name, please introduce yourself. First person, Radi Khalilov. Please. Hello, I welcome you. I am a member of the Bar Association. I work in the Advocate Bureau number 11, Khalilov Radil Oğlu. It's very interesting for us. Istanbul Convention of 2011, to get information about this, to raise our awareness. Thank you very much for holding this. Next, Agila Pashayeva. Adila Khanım, please. Yeah, I also welcome everyone. I am judge of the Sabuncu District Court. What's my expectation? Indeed, the topic is the main topic, particularly being a woman. This topic becomes particularly important for me. What's my expectation? Indeed, we are talking about the topic and we have seen how the instructions direct us to act. We will deal with this, and expectation is, in our cases, what we should do in such cases, how we should act, to learn the convention and to apply it, how it will be applied. This is very interesting. So this is the expectation, to learn about these spheres, because cases related to women and children are very vulnerable cases. And our expectation is to take
Ayten Hanım.
Salam, herkese salamlayıram. Çox sağ olun, dəyərli vaxtınızı alıb bizə vaxt ayırdığınız üçün. Adilə xanımın qeyd etdiyi kimi doğrudan da həssas mövzudur mövzu. Amma biz də istərdik ki, bu konvensiya ilə tanış olub, işlərimizdə tətbiqinə dair daha faydalı məlumatlar öyrənək və bunu doğrudan da işlərimizdə tətbiq edək. Həm qadınlara qarşı psixoloji olaraq yanaşma baxımından zorakılığa məruz qalan qadınlara, həm də onları dindirilməsində hansı həssas məsələlərə diqqət yetirməliyik, bunları diqqət yetirək və işimizdə tətbiq edə bilərik. Çox sağ olun diqqətiniz üçün.
Teşekkür ediyorum Ayten Hanım. Növbəti Babək Zakirzadə. Babək müəllim. Mikrofonu açın, biz sizi eşitmirik. Olabilir, nəsə problemi var, onu daha sonra...
Mən özür istəyirəm, mən tərcüməçini eşitmirəm.
Siz İngilis dilində qulaq asırsınız, indi...
Bəli, İngilis kanalındayım, amma tərcüməçini eşitmirəm. Mehriban xanım.
I am here.
Buradadır tərcüməçi.
Yeah.
Tərcümə gəlmirdi bayaq ki, danışanda.
Üzr istəyirəm, Kamran müəllimin yenə də sırasıydı. Ona görə mən sustum ki, o danışar.
İndi eşidirəm.
Yes, yes, I'm here. I'm here.
İndi ikiniz eyni anda danışırsınız. Biriniz danışın da zəhmət olmasa.
So it's my turn.
Okay.
All right. So, yes. So, Babak, please unmute your mic because we cannot hear you now. Babak wrote in the chat that he had a technical problem. Javid Sultanov. Javid, can you unmute your mic? Javid is from the Agdash District Court. Javid? Then we go to the next participant, Yegana Mehmedova. I think women so far have not any technical problems, by the way. Thank you very much. Thank you to all. So I would like to thank all organizers. Yes, I was interested in these courses before too, and I believe that these courses are important. This is a great support for our self-development. Therefore, I'm very aspired to benefit from these courses. Thanks to all. Thank you. So now I see in my list the name of Elvin Gahramanov. Please. Please unmute your mic, Elvin. Elvin Gahramanov, please. So far, no women had any technical problems. Only men have technical problems. I haven't had any technical problems so far. I'm just waiting for my name to be pronounced. So you can start. I'm the judge from the Yasamal District Court. Orhan Mehmedli is my name. Thank you very much for letting us participate in this very important event. Yes, this is a very wide topic, as our colleagues, women judges and attorneys have just mentioned. So we have to learn all these topics together. Then we will, of course, have opportunities for the discussions. So yes, I will be very much interested in participating in these courses. Fizuli Valiyev, please, from the Chief Prosecutor's Office, please. So, hello to all. I'm the Section Prosecutor, Fizuli Valiyev, from the Chief Prosecutor's Office. So I'm very pleased to join this event. And I think it will be very beneficial if we all continue with these courses. Thank you very much. So the next is Günay Akhundova. Hello. I thank you for the floor. I'm the judge of the Yasamal District Court, Akhundova Günay. So I remember when I just started, from my own experience, and there was an application from a victim of domestic violence case, and I started to look for any similar case in this court before, and I couldn't find a single case on domestic violence in our court proceedings. Just imagine. So, and as I've realized that this is quite a new topic for us, and I'm very much interested in these courses. Yes, that's great, because your shared experience really very interesting. According to the statistics the committee has shared with us, if I'm not wrong to remember, only 5 or 6 long-term protection orders were issued last year in Azerbaijan. So these protection orders are really very few in a year, issued in a year. So one of the goals of these courses is for our colleagues to share their experiences with each other. So I can see Gunel Sadigova from the Academy of Justice. Please, the floor is yours. I would like to also say hello to everyone here. I also would like to introduce myself. We are actually not participants of the course. We are from the organizers as the Academy of Justice, but I am one of the national trainers of the HELP course selected in 2018. And then I am also one of the selected national trainers for the project between the Academy of Justice and UN for the access to justice for women. And we have been involved in this promotion work, in the promotion of these courses for quite a while. And I'm very interested in these courses, how they will be run. Yes, please, Ilkin, now the floor is yours. I also would like to say hello to all participants. Thank you for this opportunity, for sharing our views. I'm the judge of the Binagadi District Court, Ilkin Aliyev. So I'm a judge on civil cases. As Gunay has mentioned a while ago, we only had one case when a long-term protection order was issued. There was only one case last year. So very few applications to the court on this topic. And I think we need to think about establishing the legal framework which would help us to enforce the civil procedural code. Thank you very much. Yes, it would be a great success to have a reference, to include references to the Istanbul Convention in the decisions of your court, in the enforcement decisions of the court. So if you plan to do so, it would be really a great experience in the future if you do so. Please, now the floor is yours, Jamila. Thank you very much for organizing these discussions on this very interesting topic. It's not only about the violence against women, but also the topic of domestic violence is very important. And there is a great necessity to discuss all these two topics. So my thanks to all of you. And I believe that in the future, referring to the documents that you've been sharing with us and you're going to share with us, we will be in a better position to protect the rights of our women. Please, Ms. Akbarova, the floor is yours. Hello. My name is Leila Akbarova. I'm the member of the Bar Association. I'm an attorney. My expectation is that we will be able to make a change in the statistics in the future. And I hope that we will be able to gain very effective practical knowledge. And I hope that the prosecution, judiciary, police will treat the applications or complaints from women more sensitively. They will have a more sensitive position to those applications. And we will try to stimulate them in that. Oh, that's great. Thank you very much. Tural Mamedov, the floor is yours. Hello to all. Hello to all my colleagues. I'm the judge of the Surakhane District Court. This is a very sensitive topic, as my colleagues have said. Yes, we have a lot of civil cases, family disputes where women are involved, and we hope that we will be able to apply all the theory that we have learned today and we will learn in practice. And we believe that if we will be able to use the Istanbul Convention to regulate the parts in our national legislation which are not regulated well today, it would be really great success. Mehriban Mamedova, please, the floor is yours. So, hello to all. I'm the attorney of the Credo Attorney Bureau. So, I've been following this this program for a long time. I know that this is one of the most successful course platform, and I'm very happy that I've been selected to it. And we hope that we will be able to use all this knowledge in our practice in the future. And I'm very hopeful that I will complete this course very successfully. So thanks to all organizers, thanks to all who have prepared these courses for us. All the best to all. Thank you. Natik Ismailov, please. Natik. My name is Natik Ismailov. I'm the judge of the Shamakhă District Court. I welcome to all course participants, and I share with my colleagues the view that the knowledge that we're going to receive in the courses, in these courses, will be applied in practice. We will benefit from this, and my thanks to all organizers of this course, of this event. Thank you. Ramin Karimov. Hello. I can hardly hear the guy.
Size biraz yakın durun mikrofona.
Ramin Karimov, mən də salamlayıram hər kəsi.
Teşekkür ederim.
Ramin Karimov, my hello to all. Saleh Hacıyev. Saleh. Hello to all. I'm the chief prosecutor of the Chief Prosecutor's Office on the cases out of the criminal proceedings. And I think the fact that the Chief Prosecutor's Office is involved is also important and important for us. And I believe all our colleagues who are involved will benefit from these courses. I wish all the best to all participants. Thank you. Ülker Yusifova, please, the floor is yours. Please unmute your mic. Yes, we can hear you now. So, I also welcome all course participants. My thanks to all organizers that you have involved me in this platform. Parvana knows that I also was in this platform before, and I really benefited from it very much. And it was a 3 months period, I remember, a 3 months course. And when I then started working, so I really could benefit from it. I could feel that I benefited from it. Then I've been on several events dedicated to the Istanbul Convention. This is a very interesting and topical issue. I'm the judge, by the way, of the Nizamit District Court. By the way, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm a judge of the Nizamit District Court. I just started my office, and then some colleagues mentioned the protection orders. And yes, this issue is now a very hard issue, and we can see it from the cases in our proceedings. This topic becomes very hot. And when we investigate those cases, when we make decisions, I think we will need to refer to the Istanbul Convention in our future decisions, and I think we will benefit from it. Thank you very much. And we know why Ulker is specifically interested in it because when last year when we had a webinar on Istanbul Convention, it was open for all participants. And Ulker was the only judge participant who registered herself in this webinar. And she shared her views after this webinar. Thank you very much. Thank you. Attorney Javid Aliyev. So I'm reading your names and titles as you've written them. Hello. So I also would like to say hello to all participants. My thanks to all organizers of this event. Thank you very much. It is very useful. And I believe that the courses will be very useful for us. So this topic we are discussing, which is the violence against women and domestic violence. These issues are not new problems. They're quite old problems. These are they have been always one of the hot issues of a society. But as for the issue of raising it to the level of legal framework, it has become a new issue for us. Through learning it through the Istanbul Convention notion. And I think we need to learn the Istanbul Convention, how we can apply it in our practice. And therefore, I'm very thankful to you for this course. And I wish all the best to all participants. Let the God to make it lastful on you. Okay, Vusal Aliyev.
Salamlayıram hər kəsi.
Hello to all. I'm from the Chief Prosecutor's Office, the Chief Prosecutor of the section investigating cases out of the criminal proceedings. So, Parvana, you mentioned one thing that I would like to comment on about the number of women prosecutors working in the prosecution. In 2020, 8 women prosecutors were promoted to the high positions. There are district prosecutors, district deputy prosecutors. So in general, if it is, maybe it is not much, but there are 75 women prosecutors. And you know, this is our profession where our women colleagues are not very much interested to work in the prosecution. I don't know, maybe this is because of the characteristic of our profession. I don't know. But we always try to maximize participation of women prosecutors in such events. Thank you very much. Thank you, Vusal. Thank you for a very interesting piece of information you've shared with us. If women are represented in the prosecution bodies in a limited way, and the reason is that they are not interested, it means that this area has some gaps, some weaknesses maybe. Therefore, they do not express any interest to be there. Because, for example, if you look at the legal professionals, attorneys, there are so many women. Why they're going there then? So I think there should be some reason why women do not express an interest to work in the prosecution. I think this is a good food for you to think about it in the future. Thank you. So now, next, Khalilov Rabil. Or Radil. Oh, you've covered me already. Yes, sorry. Then we have Yulia Sadigova. Yulia. Hello to all. I'm the member of the board. I work at the attorney bureau number 23, I think. My name is Yulia Sadigova. I'm an attorney. I'm very much involved in a case at the moment, on domestic violence and indemnification for the damage. This case has been in my proceeding for a long time. There are more questions than answers in this case. And therefore, I believe that this course will help me to understand better the details of that case and will help me in the future cases of similar topic. I believe that this course will be useful for me. Thank you very much. Thank you. So the list of participants is exhausted. There is only one participant left who has been registered as Galaxy, not showing his name or her name. So if this person, this participant, wants to introduce himself or herself, please. Maybe there are some other participants who have not been covered. Please, then unmute your mics and speak. Sorry, I entered the Zoom as Galaxy, but now I think I changed my name there. Yes, now my name is visible there. My name is Nihada Khundov. I'm the attorney of the Turnish Bureau number 18. So I would like to thank you for involving me in these trainings. And I think the knowledge that we have received and we will receive will help us and support us in our future work. Thank you very much. And I would like to also wish all the best to my colleagues. Then I see one more participant, Hassan Guliyev, I think. He's from the Academy of Justice. I think he would like to say something. If you want to say something, please. We have Javid Sultan. We have Javid Sultanov. He's the judge from the Agdash District Court. I think he had technical problems before. If he can, you can speak, please. So, hello to all. I'm very pleased to join to this training with such professionals. I participated as the attorney in the help course on a different topic, and I received a lot of useful information. And I have no doubts now that I will benefit from it and to apply this knowledge in our practice. There are many problems related to women and across the world and relating to the enforcement of the convention. And this problem is especially acute in the regions, by the way. And therefore, I think as I work in one of the regions, therefore, I think this platform, this knowledge, this course will be really very useful for me in my work. So all the best to you, to all course participants. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Javid. It's very important that not a big number, but still some lawyers working in different regions are also participating in this training. Please, if we are missing someone, please open your microphone and introduce yourself. The time allocated for presentation is up already, so it was very interesting to get information about your practice and the cases you are dealing with, which shows that you will be able to benefit from these courses and use it in your daily activity. Now, I want to give the floor to Farhad once again. He will make presentation regarding the implementation of the court. I should say that we shared with you the video prepared by Farhad in order to save the time to get registered in the course. As far as I know, judges and some lawyers have already registered. Only prosecutors will have to register. because if their list has been submitted to us only today, if I'm not mistaken. After the presentation of the Farhad, we will do the registration of the prosecutors also. Thank you. Before I start with the presentation, I would like to ask the prosecutor, please, using this platform, go to the chat box. There is also private chat possibility. Maybe you don't want to publicly post your phone number, please. Yes, I have sent to you email addresses and phone numbers of all participants. No, I didn't have. No, from the prosecution, we received only emails. In any case, please, prosecution, I ask you in private chat, write your phone number to me, so I only will see them, because I want to explain how to register and to finalize this issue with the registration also. All the judges and lawyers have already been registered, not only been registered, even judges and lawyers, all of them, I have enrolled to the course. They're already going to their accounts, they can start the course, but I will now explain how to start the course. While introducing themselves, Tural and İlkin, the judges, touched upon certain issues, and because in solving the cases, certain gaps, if certain gaps will occur, they will be able to refer to the convention if Azerbaijan joins the convention. Indeed, I'm not instructing, but I would say that more appropriate is Istanbul Convention has been referred on many occasions to the Istanbul Convention. So as we are under the jurisdiction of the European Court of Human Rights, in our daily activities and our courts refer to the case law of the European Court, dear friends, taking all this into account, you can benefit, you can use HUDOC database. I think everyone is using this database. So you can use judgment in order to refer to them. What this course will bring us, Yulia Hanım mentioned this, why she has joined this course. After you gain information from this platform, you will be able to understand, depending on the case you are handling, you will know where you have to refer, to which sources you have to refer. So you will have some precise addresses where to go. So this training course, all the information accumulated in the training course, and it was mentioned also in the presentation of our expert that the content of the course was covered by her presentation. All this information, which is from the viewpoint of accessibility, also referring to the sources, this is very important. Can we do screen share? When I go to my presentation, I will share my screen. Now I'm just giving some general remarks. Besides, dear friends, just one sec. And you have to know that this course, just 1 minute. Can you see the screen? Before we start with the presentation, I want to show you the agenda. This agenda, in the introductory part of the platform, you can find this. Starting from today, you will go through the modules. You will get information included in those modules. You have to know that there are 7 modules. In each module, 7 modules means 7 weeks. So for 7 weeks, you will have 7 weeks to conclude the module. If trainee has time. You can conclude one module within several hours as well. Or you can take 1 week in order to finalize the module. Indirectly, if to assume that we start our training since today, as of today, then if to think that you will spend 1 week to each module, then in the final part, we will have tests for you. There will be cases to solve, several judgments regarding long-term sanctions, long-term order. I haven't included those decisions yet, but I will do that. So if we go with this pattern, on 6 July, you should conclude the training course. And according to the results, you will get success. Depending on your success, you will get certificates. Assessment of your knowledge, evaluation, will not be carried out only on the basis of the solving the cases, but also on the basis of the test results. Because after each module, you will have tests, which you have to, I would say, go through, pass, in order to check the knowledge and we think you are, participating in this procedure voluntarily. So all the information included in this module, we request you to attentively read them, to learn, try to learn all the information, because you will feel the benefit. As a lawyer, as a person who knows very well the content of this training course, I tell you that it will be beneficial for you. My role here, whenever you have a question, for example, legal question, I'm not here to give you some legal explanation to your question. My role here is a bit technical. I know a bit more than you do regarding this platform and course. So I am playing the role of orientation, leading, in order not to face any obstacles while going through the course. Also, I want to mention that now I go to my presentation, to my file, which is in the PP PowerPoint format. I cannot find it.
Bir dakika dostlar. Taptım.
Okay, I got it. I should tell you one thing. It could be that I am scrolling the pages. You should know that when you look into the training platform, you see from the picture, there are numbers of modules: introduction, violence against women, domestic violence, and so on and so forth. In each module, excluding the first module, starting from the second module, there is a function, forum function. For example, we know that it's second week of our training. In the second week, you know which topic you are going to learn. And after you finalize the topic, after you learn it, in the end of the week, for example, Friday, it can be Saturday, through the forum, open to all 30 persons who are participating here, you can conduct a forum discussion. I will play a role of moderator. I will try to answer your questions from this forum. What's the benefit of this? It could happen that participant may raise a question. Could be overlooked by another participant. Both of them read the same information, but second one didn't have any question. So from the viewpoint of coordination of our ideas, and for the smooth flow of the training course, it's beneficial. I will encourage you to participate in these forum discussions. We will do that. Now, Pervan Hanım, do we have time? Yes, you have time. We have 20 more minutes to go. 20 more minutes. Okay, 20 minutes is more than enough. So the help program is not the, occasional finding. There was a historical need to use such platforms. You should know that there is a recommendation number 4 of the Committee of Ministers of the Committee of Ministers of the Council of Europe. Also, there is Interlaken Declaration of 2010, Brighton Declaration 2012, where this platform is named. In fact, what is the purpose of the platform? By becoming a member of the Council of Europe and accepting the jurisdiction of the Council of Europe, we, 47 member states, started harmonization of the legal systems. And every time, we don't have to go to different individual countries or to Strasbourg in order to learn something new. This help platform helps you to get information about regional documents from one spot. You get information about the practice. So general purpose of the objective of the help platform is to serve that all 47 member states representatives are able to learn from the general standards and practice. So I'm skipping some presentations. What are the advantages of help? It has been developed for you, lawyer. It's free of charge. You know, these thematic topics, you don't have to think that help training course exists only in regard of the domestic violence. Council of Europe and PACE adopted many conventions, and there are many conventions where Azerbaijan is not or is member. For example, Money Laundering Convention, which Azerbaijan has joined. You know, Azerbaijan is a member of that convention as well. Organ trading, elimination of discrimination, prohibition of discrimination. There are many materials you can find in this platform. You can independently work. You know, this course we are carrying out is distant course, and under my instructions, you will have this training course. But you can work also independent. There are many other courses which you can get independently to get familiarized with the topics that are included here. I should only say that, for example, in the part independent preparation, ECHR, European Convention on Human Rights, at least regarding 8 articles, you can find materials in Azerbaijani. During this period, we have uploaded these materials there. Article 10, for example, freedom of expression. If you have to write a decision or you have to prepare a complaint application, you can go to your account and then you will have an access to different sources. So you will find the exact address where the materials are laying. You will not have to go to search in Google or in other search engines. So a help platform is like search engine for you to find all the necessary information that you might need. What else? As I mentioned, this training will take place for 8 weeks, but I should tell you, from the viewpoint evaluation of your knowledge, I mean, in the modules, you will see that all the actions you have to make, what kind of information you have to accept. Let's say that I'm spontaneously your trainer and I will have a possibility to monitor you and maybe abusing my powers, I will evaluate your knowledge at certain points in order to keep you up. So you have to be prepared for such cases. How to enter the site, you know, help.elearning.ext.coe.int. So I'm particularly speaking for the prosecutors because they have enrolled lately. So you can go to this link, you see. With me, it was in Russian. So here we have enter. When you go there, you will have such a window. It will be to create an account. Using your email, you will create an account here. You will get a link on your email account through which you will activate your account. Through this presentation, it can be not so much clear for you, but dear prosecutor, we have a video which we have posted on YouTube. So we will send it to you, 10-minute video. Watching it, you will be able to speedily get registered, and whichever email you have to you will use for registration, you will send it to me, to my email address. Besides, you have to know that some time ago, in 2007, if I'm not mistaken, we created a Facebook page for help. Those who are using social media, you can get innovations from this page also. So from the accessibility viewpoint, it's very important source.
So this topic of domestic violence, gender equality, are interesting topics. And I think it's quite well known in our country. Attorneys have not been specialized yet. We know it very well. So, and attorneys can take up any type of case. And you know that there is a law, and it is in the law to specialize attorneys. But unfortunately, in practice, it is not there. And therefore, as having the criminal corpus delicti in such domestic violence cases, you will have to be specialized. And attorneys who are appointed, for example, in some cases, will need to be ready to take up such cases, and attorneys cannot say that I'm not specialized in this, and so on and so forth. So, and therefore, in order to reduce such risks for attorneys. Attorneys need to be informed about these topics. And really hot.
3-4 min il əvvəl, yəni 35 min il matriarxat olubdu. Qadınların hökmranlığı olan bir dövr olubdu. Yəni hardasa belə deyək, ritorik mənada deyirəm bunu. Bu da mən hesab edirəm ki, bu mövzular insanların düşüncə tərzinə dəyişməsinə də xidmət etməlidir. Bu qadınlara qarşı zorakılığın aradan qaldırılmasının ən gözəl üsullarından mən hesab edirəm. Belə deyək də, bilvasitə üsullarından biri daşın qadınların məşğulluğunun ölkədə təmin olunması, onların belə deyək, ali təhsilə, təhsil səviyyələrinin yüksəldilməsi. Nə qədər ki, bizim analarımız, bacılarımız, biz valideyn olaraq da biz də hamımız hesab edir ki, yəni öz qız övladımız varsa, o elə peşə sahibi, elə müstəqil olmalıdır ki, heç kimdən asılılığı olmasın. Bax, bu kimi hallar, bu məişət zorakılığı kimi, bu pis halların da qarşısını hardasa preventiv olaraq alacaq. Belə, suallarınız varsa mənlik bu qədər verə bilərsiniz. Diqqətinizə görə təşəkkür edirəm.
Teşekkür ederim Ferhat. Ben belə başa düşdüm ki 20 iştirakçı artıq qeydiyyatdan keçib kursda qeydə alınıbdır. Digər 6 prokurorluq nümayəndəsini siz daha sonra onlar e-mail ilə daxil olacaqlar. Siz onları qəbul edib qeydiyyata salmağı düşünürsünüz.
Mən bugün ən pis halda yəqin ki sabah, yəni bu elə bir çətin prosesdir, onları qeydiyyatdan keçirəcəm. Amma artıq 30 nəfər, 26 nəfər deyək, orada olmuş olacaq.
Yəni hamıda o link var da, linklə bağlı prokurorluq nümayəndələrindən kiminsə sualı yoxdur qeydiyyata düşməklə bağlı. Biz e-mail ilə sizə həmin o dediyimiz video linki də göndərəcəyik ki, siz baxasınız və sizə qeydiyyatdan keçmək rahat olsun. Amma hər hansı sualınız varsa bununla bağlı indi də birbaşa ünvanlaya bilərsiniz. Var kiminsə sualı?
Mən özür istəyirəm, Fərhad müəllim, mən bayaq yazdım, o təqdimatın əvvəlində bir cədvəl paylaşdınız, proqram xarakterli. Onu bir dənə bizim qrupa göndərə bilsəz minnətdar olarıq.
Mən deyim, onlar bağışlayın, yəni onlar hamısı yəni HELP kursun o onlayn sistemdə yerləşdirilibdir. Bu məlumatlar hamısı orada var. Yəni siz o cədvəllə də oradan tanış ola bilərsiniz. Amma Fərhad müəllim təbii uyğun görsə onu sizə əlavədə göndərər. Amma yəni nə qeyd olundu, hamısı orada HELP kursun platformada onlayn yerləşdirilibdir. Bir də mən baxıram, burada bəzi chatdə məlumatlar qeyd olunub. Onları yəni oxumaq istəyirəm bəzilərini. Burada demək, Ana sizə təşəkkür edibdir iştirak üçün. Nərgiz də onu tərcümə edib. Bircə dəqiqə mən onu tapım, belə narahat olur. Demək, Ana'nın adından siz təqdim etdikdən sonra özünüzü təqdim etdiyiniz üçün hamınıza təşəkkür edirəm. Sizin ümumi təcrübələriniz və HELP ilə bağlı keçmiş təcrübələriniz barədə eşitmək çox maraqlı oldu. Təşəkkür edirik Anna. Daha sonra burada Mehriban xanım bir humoristik komment qeyd edibdir. Yəni biz ki, kişi hüquqşünasların qeydiyyatdan keçməklə texniki problemləri olurdu. Mehriban xanım qeyd edib ki, kişi tərcüməçinin də yalnız texniki problemləri olur. Çünki bir neçə dəfə məhz texniki səbəbdən, hansı ki, yəni diqqətsizlikdən qaynaqlanan texniki səbəbdən arada bir neçə saniyə tərcümə olmadı. Bu, yəni humoristik şəkildə bunu qeyd edib. Sonra Mehriban xanım Məmmədova, əməyi keçən hər kəsə təşəkkür edirəm, iştirakçılara uğurlar, çox sağ olun. Orada sual var idi, onu da cavablandırdıq. Və mən indi yəni yenə, buyurun Fərhad müəllim.
Dostlar, mən bilirəm ki, belə suallar ola bilsin. Yəni HELP platformasına tanış olmayan mənə ünvanlansın, amma indidən deyirəm ki, sizdə məlumatlı olasın. Yəni bu hesab eləməyin ki, bu təlim sizin belə deyək, başınızın üzərində bir domokl qılıncıdır. Yox, elə zorla qeyd olunan belə deyək, vaxtlarda, çərçivələrdə mütləq şəkildə bitməlidir. Biləsiniz, sizin üçün tam belə deyək ki, rahat vaxt çərçivələri qoyulubdur. Bir həftə hər modul üçün həddən artıq dərəcədə, yəni kifayət qədər vaxtı rahat, tələsmədən, yavaş-yavaş bu hər modulu keçəsiniz. Bundan başqa sual nədir? Sual olunur ki, yəni hər həftə biz bu distant təlim deyəndə, hər həftə biz Zoom vasitəsilə və s. formada biz hər modul üzrə sizə təlim mi keçiriləcək? Bir xanım mənə elə bir sual ünvanlamışdı. Biləsiniz, xeyr, elə bir şey yoxdur. Siz elə oradakı modul, platformanızdakı hər modul üzrə, hər modula daxil olub, oradakı məlumatlarla siz əxs eləsəz, öyrənsəz, kifayət edir. Hər hansı bir sualınız olsa, dediyim kimi, orada forumda da yazışacağıq və ya həftənin sonuna doğru elə mən özüm də sizlə bərabər müzakirələr aparmağa çalışacağım. Yəni, belə, biləsiniz ki, yəni bu distant təlimdir də, yəni sizlər üçün və sizlərin işin rutin belə deyək, gündəlik işinizə elə bir o dərəcədə müdaxilə etməmək şərti ilə keçirilməsi nəzərdə tutulubdur.
Bir de bayaq İstanbul Konvensiyasına dair təqdimat olanda mən dedim ki, sonda kimin bu mövzu ilə bağlı Luizə sualı varsa, o sualları verməsini xahiş edəcəm. Əgər kiminsə İstanbul Konvensiyası ilə bağlı təqdimatdan ya hər hansı digər başqa olan təqdimatlardan sualı varsa, ya qeydi varsa, xahiş edirəm, buyurun. Yəni mən burada raise hand nəsə görmürəm sistemdə, amma kiminsə qeydi varsa elə mikrofonu açıb danışsın dərhal. Sualı varsa. Belə görürəm, əlavə suallar yoxdur. Ya chatda yaza bilərsiniz, yəni bir neçə saniyə mən gözləyim, əmin olum ki, heç kimin sualı yoxdur. Belə görünür ki, yoxdur. Mən onda hər birinizə çox təşəkkür edirəm. Artıq bilirəm, Azərbaycan vaxtı ilə də iş gününün sonuna tam gəlib çatmışıq. Burada Fərhad müəllim də qeyd elədi, daha əvvəlki giriş təqdimatlarında da qeyd olunmuşdu. Azərbaycan Respublikasında məişət zorakılığı ilə mübarizəyə dair 2020-2023-cü illər üçün milli fəaliyyət planı, hansı ki bu milli fəaliyyət planında hüquqşünasların, hakimlərin, vəkillərin, prokurorların məişət zorakılığı mövzusu ilə yaxından tanış olması, bu sahədə maarifləndirilməsi, xüsusi təlim keçməsi ayrıca paragraflarda xüsusi qeyd olunur və bizim bu HELP kursumuz da sırf bu boşluğumu deyək, bu tələbi dolduracaq vacib məqamlardan biridir. Və mən çox ümid edirəm ki, bu kursu keçdikdən sonra artıq sizin hər birinizdə həm İstanbul Konvensiyasına dair, həm də qadına qarşı zorakılıq və məişət zorakılığı sahəsində Avropa Şurası standartlarına dair kifayət qədər məlumatlılığınız olacaq. Eyni zamanda nəzəri biliklərdən başqa siz həm də praktik bacarıq və vərdişlərdə əldə edəcəksiniz və bu sizə imkan verəcək ki, artıq üzləşdiyiniz işlərdə genderə həssas yanaşma sərgiləyərək həmin işlərin baxılmasını, nəzərdən keçirilməsini həyata keçirə biləsiniz. Mən bir də qeyd edim ki, təlimi uğurla bitirənlərə sonda iyul ayında Ədliyyə Akademiyasının və Avropa Şurasının HELP kursunun birgə sertifikatı təqdim olunacaq və mən çox ümid edirəm ki, bizim imkanımız olacaq ki, həmin sertifikatları sizə onlayn deyil, üzbəüz təqdim edək. Mən buna çox ümid edirəm və əminəm ki, hər biriniz buna ümid edirsiniz. Çox təşəkkür edirəm hər birinizə. Artıq Fərhad müəllimlə ünsiyyətdə olacaqsınız. Hər hansı sualınız, qeydiniz olarsa Nərgizə, mənə ya Sandraya e-mail ilə yazıb müraciət edə bilərsiniz. Həmin bu təqdimatlar daha sonra e-mail vasitəsilə sizin hər birinizə göndəriləcək ki, bütün təqdimatlar İngilis və Azərbaycan dillərində. Çünki mən baxdım, İngilis dilində də dinləyənlər var idi. Bu təqdimatlar hər birinizdə olsun. Hər hansı sualınız olarsa çəkinmədən istədiyiniz vaxt müraciət edə bilərsiniz. Mən çox təşəkkür edirəm hər birinizə və sizə çox uğurlu kurs arzu edirəm. Sağlam qalın, salamat qalın, sağ olun.
Pərvanə xanım, dostlar, tərk eləməyək bircə dəqiqə. bir dənə sizə mənim ricam nədir? Fürsətli burada deyirəm. Sizlər çox xahiş edirəm, platformaya daxil oldunuz, orada giriş bölməsində görəcəksiniz bir fayl var. İstanbul Konvensiyasıdır, Azərbaycan dilində. Yəni o rəsmi tərcümə deyil. Amma sizə bütün mənzərəni sizə aydın şəkildə belə deyək də göstərəcək. Həm o giriş hissəsindəki İstanbul Konvensiyası, o cümlədən ən axırıncı 8-ci bölmədə qanunvericiliyin siyahısı var. Bax, o iki sənədi oxuyun, ondan sonra yavaş-yavaş o modullar üzrə hərəkət edin. Onu oxuyun, yəni artıq sizə daha rahat olsun deyə deyək bu məqsəddə. Bu qədər.
Fərhad müəllim. Bir də bu Ramazan ayında yəqin ki içlərinizdə oruç tutanlar var. Allah orucunuzu qəbul eləsin hər birinizin. Təşəkkür edirəm. Sağ olun, uğurlar.
Amin. Təşəkkür edirik. Sağ olun.
Sağ olun.
Allah razı olsun.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, interpreters.
Yeah, I just remember that I forgot to thank interpreters again. Sorry. Mehriban Hanım. Ben yine size teşekkür etmeyi unuttum. Yani buradasınız.
Buradayıq.
Bağışlayın, ben yine yani sonda unuttum tərcüməçilərə teşekkür eləməyi.
Heç bir problem yoxdur. Bilirik ki, ürəyinizdə həmişə bizə təşəkkür edirsiniz. Siz sağ olun.
Sağ olun. Sağ olun Pərvan xanım. Təşəkkür edirəm. Çox sağ olun. Bye bye.